Good evening and welcome to Slam the Gavel, the show that tells it all regarding family court, other court issues, as well as CPS. I am your host, Marianne Petrie. This episode of Slam the Gavel is sponsored by CPS Protect Consulting Services. Child Protective Services cases are among the most frightening experiences any parent can endure. Don't face them alone. With urgent assist by CPS Protect, you get the peace of mind to raise your children as you see fit, and the personalized assistance of their team of expert child welfare consultants, former CPS investigators themselves, right when you need it. Get started absolutely free at cpsprotect.com/register. That is also available in all 50 states. Also, one next announcement, go to the site, pleasedoyourjob.com, and sign the petition. We need 2,000 more signatures to get a very, very important case reopened. That's pleasedoyourjob.com. Now, I have a brand new guest on. I'm happy to have Evelyn Hemphill. She's also known as Evelyn the Advocate. She's an activist as well, and her voice is expressed through various platforms and partnerships to raise awareness about domestic violence and support its victims. Evelyn's voice is being heard through articles and online news and podcasts, all under the category of awareness and education. By writing articles and producing podcasts, she aims to educate the public about the dynamics of domestic violence and provide resources for survivors. And I'm welcome to have you on, Evelyn. How did this happen? How did all this evolve?
This all happened because I was involved in a family court case. It
Mm.
was a divorce case and a child was involved. And I've had terrible experiences with the South Carolina Department of Social Services, along with the family court system, because the family court system is where it all begins, where my situation began in
Mhm.
South Carolina.
I've heard a lot of bad things from South Carolina, so continue. So sorry.
Um, there's really nobody held accountable when serious systemic issues come about. There's really nobody to go to. You have to basically just, I guess, do like I did. I hired private attorneys and stuff in my case, but when realized that they weren't doing what I actually paid them to do, I fired them. And I
Mhm.
had to take on the case myself, and the case lasted 12 years in court.
Oh my goodness, I'm sorry. How did you get through all of that as well?
It was very stressful. I look the way I look now when it first began, but I have this picture that I would like to display of how this stressful situation made me look, and it really affected my health. Can you see it?
Mhm. Mhm. You look beautiful though.
Thank you. It caused me to have a lot of health problems and stuff, and the case almost caused me to be homeless in the streets because I had to pay for legal fees that were essentially never rendered
Oh.
for my child and myself.
Mhm. Right, a lot of parents are going through that, they're paying attorneys and getting no results.
Yeah, and you just have to try to be educated and have knowledge of what's supposed to happen before you go into the court. And when it doesn't happen, you have to try to contact, I guess, the people that are in charge.
Mhm.
I can't say that you'll really get any results because for many years I didn't get, results. So you just have to try to find out what should happen before you go into court. That's my best advice to parents.
That is good advice. Finding out what really should happen.
According to the laws of your state.
Mhm. And and to also be aware that they're not gonna follow the law.
That's right.
Mm.
Just be prepared. Anything can happen. And to me, you know what? Gender doesn't matter. Race doesn't matter in this situation. Economic status does not matter because the people that are in charge of the system, they're going to do whatever they want to do. That's just what I've gathered.
Mhm.
I don't know about anybody else, but that's what I've experienced. Excuse me, not what I've gathered, but
Mhm.
what I've experienced from a personal level.
I find also that it's a money court.
Oh, you may have a decent type lifestyle when you walk in there, but
Mhm.
I guarantee you, you may not know where your next meal is gonna come from after the judges and lawyers get done with you and the other officers of the court.
Oh, definitely. I totally agree with that statement. I went from, eating and then, like, normal meals, then to just peanut butter sandwiches.
Yeah. I went from eating normal meals to the Dollar Tree,
Mhm.
eating out of the Dollar Tree, providing meals for my child and I from there because I had no money. I was working,
Mm.
but all of my income was being just exhausted trying to fight the case.
Mhm. They do this on purpose, and the attorneys, I think, are all in on it.
I believe that that's what happened in the case that I've been involved in for many years. I believe that that's what happened.
How did you find that out? Like, when did you sense that they're all in it together?
Well, after I kept paying money for representation, lawyers going in with me being quiet, not showing up, I mean, just doing unthinkable things.
Mm.
The last attorney I had was actually quiet while they were in court with me. And I said, you know what? I was the plaintiff bringing the case back to court, but it felt like I was the defendant.
Yes. Yes.
So what I did was I decided to fire that attorney and I
Mhm.
found a loophole. I'm currently writing a memoir.
Mhm.
People would be able to find the actual way that I was able to get back in court in that memoir. There is a way that you can represent yourself, but you have to do a lot of research according to your state. And I will not lie to you and tell you that it's not exhausting. It can be done,
Mhm.
but it's very exhausting.
Oh, it is. When did you start writing your memoir?
I've started writing it a couple of months ago. And the amazing thing about this memoir, I'm just a regular person. I do work in the medical field, but I'm just so grateful that I was able to find out exactly what happened in my case because for years I was baffled. I didn't have any answers.
Mhm.
But I met some people and I started doing a lot of research, and it was just my comparison of the case is you know how you put a rubber band ball together? That's the example that I use for my legal case.
Mhm.
Just unraveling
Mm.
everything that happened. It was a very, very difficult task to do that.
Did you find going through transcripts and orders and having to reorganize and put things in order as how they happened
It
to
was a nightmare. I had to
Yes.
go back to the beginning. In 2018, I
Mhm.
had been divorced since 2010. My file was stolen by one of my attorneys, and I had to try to go back and piece everything together what I could. It just was a nightmare.
Exactly, I can relate to that because I went to pick up my file from one of my attorneys that I fired, and just to be idiots, they just threw the papers all mixed up, jumbled up in this
Yeah.
box. And I
Well, actually, my whole file was taken by one of my former attorneys.
Right, with
And it's
important
on
papers.
record. I can
Right.
say this because it's on record and I can prove that it was stolen. I have the order off of the South Carolina Supreme Court website. I was involved in it. I mean, this person took the whole file.
Oh,
So I literally almost had nothing to go by.
uh, was this well, I'm sure this attorney was never reprimanded, nothing ever happened.
Oh, that attorney was reprimanded because they
Oh,
wronged
good.
quite a few people and they were reprimanded. I don't know their status of today, what their status is today, but oh yes, they were reprimanded. not only because of that one incident, but there were multiple incidences that they were involved in. It took a lot for them to be reprimanded.
Oh, yeah. How did that all evolve? You knew this file was stolen, and then did you file a, complaint on the
I
board?
went to disciplinary counsel, and I also one important thing to do when you're contacting these attorneys, you need to go to the US Postal Service to certified a mail that you send to them,
Mhm.
because I found too that a lot of people say, "Oh, well, I never received this." And I don't think the US Postal Service will lie, so you have to keep that evidence that you've been contacting these people, and if you email them, also keep that electronic evidence, because people, they get amnesia in some
Oh,
situations.
definitely, definitely. I always send things with where they have to sign for it,
Yes.
always. It costs more money, unfortunately, but
Yeah.
it has to be done with these, individuals.
If you don't do that, I promise you, you'll regret not doing that a
Mhm.
little bit later on in the case.
Oh, yes. It's sad that there's no accountability or oversight.
There's not, none in my opinion either.
So how else did, what else continued in your case?
Well, I was experiencing domestic violence when I was married, and I felt like that was hidden when I went to court. So that's played a major role in just being violated by the court system and being a domestic violence survivor. That was like a double whammy.
Yes.
With me not even having any rights or nothing happening pertaining to the domestic violence or anything.
Right, because they're re-victimizing the victim.
Yeah, I was victimized so many times through the system. That's why I have nothing to lose now. I'm going to tell my story in hopes that it'll help other people.
And it will,
I,
and
I certainly hope so.
oh, yes. The more you speak out about all of this, weird corruption that people think doesn't happen because we all go into a courtroom thinking, justice will be done, the judge will listen because we've got proof and this and that, that they don't doesn't happen. It's
It does not happen. And it causes such a negative impact on society. I
Mhm.
mean, a lot of the people that you see out in society that may be homeless, that may be addicted to drugs, alcohol, or whatever, something has happened to them.
Right.
And possibly they have been involved in a court system, maybe, that's traumatized them so much that they just gave up hope, because people disappear in situations like this. Most of the time, unless somebody really cares about you, you'll look around and even your family members will think that you're fabricating things that have happened to you.
Mhm,
That's
mhm.
exactly what happened to me. I had a few friends that stick around, but very few family members.
Oh, definitely, because the other party will call them up and give them some sob story, and they'll listen to it,
Yeah, they will.
which is
Or
a
either
shame.
they'll just question you, and I have no reason to make up anything. If I was making up anything, I'm sure I would have been sued by now. I
Mhm.
wouldn't be able to speak out about this. I speak out about it because it's all true.
Right, right. But it's sad that family doesn't back each other up. You know that saying, "Blood is thicker than water," and that's not true anymore.
I found out differently in
Mhm.
this situation.
Oh,
Definitely.
I myself as well and other parents, it's
I
very
mean, I think the system wants people to be alone, maybe so they can get so depressed and go crazy and stuff. Because when you tell people this stuff, a lot of times they don't even believe that things like this can happen. It's just like you mentioned a few minutes ago. Oh, we live in the United States. We're going to court. We're gonna have our day in court, this and that. I'm still waiting for my day in court.
Mm.
Still haven't had my day in court
And
and probably will never get it.
I'm sure your due process rights were violated somewhere
Oh,
in there.
were they? Yes, they were. They were violated from the beginning because in the beginning of the divorce case, my first attorney didn't show up.
Uh,
So the court entered temporary orders against me. And when the final hearing came, they stayed with the temporary orders and nothing changed. They got me on the default judgment.
oh, that's terrible.
And yes, and I must say to society, I don't want to act like I can't make a mistake. I made a mistake when I was married. I was a battered wife,
Mhm,
experiencing domestic violence, and I made the mistake of having an affair.
mhm.
And I always put that out in public because I don't want nobody to come behind me. Oh, she did this, she did that. I had an affair
Mhm,
as a battered wife,
mhm. And these things can happen because
but
you
I didn't go and steal money from people. I
Mhm,
didn't violate anybody's rights. I didn't do any of those things.
mhm.
I was treated less than a citizen when I was in court.
It's bad in there, and people don't realize that.
And then plus in most states it's a closed court. So when you go to trial, it's fair game for the system.
And this is why we need the cameras in courts, we need
Yes,
videos.
yes, we do. They don't need to be closed courts.
I agree. And this is where they do their dirty deeds.
They do a lot of dirty deeds. I call it backroom gambling. Because when you get to family court, they'll run those numbers so fast, it'll make your head spin.
Mm.
You know, pertaining to assets and income and all that, they know how to run the numbers.
Oh, definitely. And they'll even inflate numbers or make up numbers that don't even exist.
Or either not put numbers where they should be displayed.
Mhm. Yeah,
I
I
think that happened too.
oh, to you and to so many others, and it's so, sad that people are being so taken advantage of in within the domestic violence arena.
Yes. I mean, it's very sad, and I'm so grateful that I survived, and I'm here to tell my story because there are so many victims
Mhm.
that are not alive.
Mhm.
They're gone, especially in my state, because I think now South Carolina ranks number 6 or 7 nationally, excuse me, for domestic violence. And
So
a lot of those people are some of those people are killed.
wow, that's terrible. I've had a lot of people, speak out. I've had, Lee Grenade on my podcast, and she's
Oh, really? I've
yeah.
heard of her.
Oh, yeah, yeah, her story, again, no oversight, no accountability,
None.
and then some people end up losing their children, everything.
I lost I lost my child custody. Yep, I did. And I was the parent that was present most of the time. The other parent was always working or saying that they were at work, and I lost custody. And that's the reason why I've gone public with the story. It's because it wasn't so much about the money. I lost $100,000 fighting the case. It's the years that I lost with my child, and I know that it should have never been that way. And to me, at whatever point, I didn't care what judge or what lawyer said this or what lawyer said that. It didn't matter to me. I knew that it wasn't right.
How old was your child at this time?
She was around 6 years old.
How sad. The worst time to be taken away from
Yeah,
a fit, loving parent.
yeah, and I've never been deemed as an unfit fit parent. I don't do drugs, I don't drink alcohol, I work every day. No Department of Social Services in the United States can deem me as an unfit parent because 'cause I've been a parent since the age of 16,
Mhm.
and nobody can deem me as unfit. And the Department of Social Services in South Carolina, they were involved, but of course, no help.
They only make it worse. Did you find that?
Made it worse, and they knew things were happening, but nothing happened. I don't know if it was because it was a private case or what, I'm not sure, but I know that they weren't any help.
Ugh.
To me, in South Carolina, a child has to be next to dead in a private case before they step in.
Mhm.
That's my opinion, that's what I experienced.
Mhm. Yeah. Do you have contact with your daughter?
It's a son. I have contact with them.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
It's okay. I have contact with them.
Well, that's good.
And that's only because I fought with my life
Mhm.
for that to happen. Fighting the case. Other than that, if I had walked away like a dog with my tail between my legs, my child wouldn't know who I am. My child would believe how he wouldn't have a choice but to believe what he was told about me.
Mhm.
So he wouldn't know who I am if that's the case. So that's the number one reason why I fought that case the way I did. And number two is to help others. I wanted my son to know me, and
Mhm.
I would like to help others do the same thing.
Because when these kids are taken away, other people start putting ideas into this kid's head
Yes,
to hate and fear the other parent.
that's exactly what happens.
Oh,
It's disgusting. Just talking about it, it's a hard subject to talk about, but it's really disgusting.
and with you helping people and talking to people, people need to know that when their kids are taken away, these kids are going to be, for the lack of a better word, brainwashed,
Yes,
Stockholm syndrome, and they're gonna be taught to hate and fear you and your family members.
right. I agree.
And that's child psychological abuse, and the courts allow it.
They allow it. To me, family court in South Carolina doesn't even go by the real truth. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I don't think they go by the truth.
Well, they also make up the law as they go along in
They
family.
really do. And that's pretty that is a bad situation.
Mhm.
It's awful.
So I just think it should just be abolished.
I think it should be dismantled. The family court system as we know it now, I believe it should be dismantled
Yes.
and abolished.
Thank
That's
you.
my opinion
I agree.
because of what I have experienced.
Along with CPS.
Yes, the same.
They serve no earthly purpose, and if, if we can just abolish family court and put it into civil court like the old days before, what, 68 when Congress installed family court?
Oh, really?
That's what someone had told me. I looked it up one time and I thought it was 1968 or it was 1962.
Okay.
But no one voted this in. No one voted for family court. Where did this come from? So why not take it back down to civil court where a parent can have a jury
Yes. and present evidence and not solely have to depend on an attorney,
Mhm,
make these courts more pro se friendly, just like other courts are.
mhm.
Because I think it's very rare that somebody can actually go in family court as a pro se litigant. That is a tough,
Oh,
tough situation to be in. I don't think it happens that often because of the law. You get shut down even before you can get in there. But I'm so grateful that I was able to find the loophole to fight in family court in South Carolina. I
mm,
was able to file an appeal, but I didn't win the appeal because I'm not an attorney. I left off some information, but I'm so grateful that everything that happened over the course of the 12 years, I presented it to the court and I'm able to talk about it.
mhm,
So everything that I speak about is part of the court record. That way, I'm protected, and these people won't come after me and try to and sue me and try to silence me because I'm telling the truth about everything.
mhm,
Nobody has said that I've lied about anything or misleading people. Nobody has came forth and said that because it's all true.
mhm. Right, and what people also need to know is, as a pro se representing yourself and you file an appeal, they're generally gonna dismiss it anyway,
Yeah,
unfortunately.
probably. I think it may be too much evidence that
Yeah.
they may be able to see that wasn't presented in the lower court.
Mhm.
You know how they like to have this information kept kind of secret, as if you
Yep.
will, because
Right,
it is a secret until if unless you're strong enough to bring it to the forefront.
right. And this also happened to me 'cause, my appeal was dismissed as well, but you give them this evidence, and they see the case has merit, but yet they don't wanna do the work to fix it. That there's no justice.
None. I left off information about a 4-day hearing,
Mhm.
so that's why my appeal was dismissed. But I'm so happy. You know what? Even though it's dismissed, I'm not sad about that. I'm not sad about it being dismissed because I had a chance for my voice to be heard on paper.
Mhm.
And now I'm grateful that people like you are allowing me to come on your platform and people can actually hear my voice and hear what happened.
And learn from you and your
Yeah, I hope
experiences.
so.
You know, I always try to tell parents to just stay out of family court, but then what happens is, probably to you as well, is a personality disorder sucked you into it.
Well, I would recommend staying out of family court also if you can.
Mhm,
I would truly recommend that because a lot of times when, like we just said, when you go in there, you may not get justice. And that's something that you have to prepare for mentally.
mhm,
You may not ever get justice. I never got justice.
mm-mm. You know, did you find being a pro se representing yourself that you could handle going in there representing yourself because you were so used to being abused?
Well, I was desperate at the time, and when you're desperate,
Mhm,
you will do what needs to be done. So I said, "You know what? All my money has been taken, my child has been taken,
mm.
marital property has been taken, all my rights have been violated, so I don't have anything left. If I got the opportunity to go in and I went. I didn't have a choice."
A lot of people, well, not a lot, there are some people that just can't handle going into a courtroom representing themselves. They're just not wired to
Mm,
handle, uh, the abuse. I went under a lot of verbal abuse, but hey, I was used to it. I had been married for 10 years. I put up with that for 10 years. So going into a courtroom, that was like a walk in the park. I hate to say that, but did you notice that your opposing attorney got to speak first all the time?
I just said even with the opposing attorney being involved, I was the plaintiff in the case, but I was treated like I was the defendant.
Yes, yes.
So, yes, the opposing attorney had the opportunity, but I must say this, I am thankful for the judge that presided over that case because I had an opportunity too for 4 days to
Mhm.
go in and speak, but yes, most of the time, the opposing attorney had the floor. Yes.
And now, did your opposing attorney also, imply that you were crazy?
The court had me take 2 psychological
Oh.
tests. The first test came back, it proved that I was a battered wife.
Mhm.
My former attorney did was reluctant about giving me the results of that test. That's one reason why they were fired. I had a second psychological exam by a forensic psychiatrist that works for the state. It came back with no significant psychological problems, just a little bit histrionic with I would say that I was hysterical because I knew the situation that my child was left in. Sure,
Oh.
I was hysterical. Who
Mhm.
wouldn't be?
Right, right.
When you're fighting against a whole corrupt, in my opinion, family court system.
Oh, and this is the position they put a parent in, and they take your child away. How do they expect someone to act? What, like, cool, calm, and collected? Um, it's impossible.
I would say,
You know, I was able to remain cool, calm, and collected because I had gone to a doctor and he put me on an antidepressant and an anti-anxiety, so I wouldn't be going in there crying all over the place. So I did go in there calm, cool, and collected, which I'm sure they thought was weird.
yeah, I was calm. I think because I've had a rough life and I didn't have an easy childhood and I've learned a lot from my past. So that's why I went in there calm and everything. And I meditated and my faith helped to keep me going. That's what really helped me.
Oh, you have to have your faith. If you don't have
Yes.
your faith, y it's just like, when I was going through court, my husband would say, "Well, you're losing every hearing." It's like, because I'm supposed to lose every hearing. They're all in collusion together. It's a setup.
Yeah. And I think it's about money too. It's about money because you pay money for services. And then you look around, these people have walked away and you're left standing there.
Mhm.
So I'm going to tell my story for the rest of my life as long as I'm breathing. I hope it'll help, make a change in society. I
Mhm.
think with people seeing a real person that's actually experienced this really will make a difference.
Mhm. Yeah, unless people go through it, and you really don't wanna see people go through it at all.
No.
But still, you watch a courthouse and you're watching these families go in, and it's like, I just don't even I wonder what's going on in there because I've been
Yeah.
through it, and I know what's gonna happen to them and those kids, and, I don't know how old your son is now, but, do you have a lot of contact with him?
I have contact with him. He's 19, he'll be 20.
Oh, good, okay. Well, gee, you wonder what he thinks about all this too,
When he was smaller, I kinda, like, sheltered him away from it, but this is a serious, serious situation, so I I have to talk about it,
mhm,
and it's on social media, and I have to tell a story. I can't not say anything
mhm,
because too many people this has hurt too many people. So I have to tell what happened. And when he was younger, I did explain it to him.
mhm.
So I'm doing this to help people, so I can't be silent about it.
No. No, you were lucky you were able to explain it to him, because these judges give these no contact orders. These judges are serious alienators, they will separate the good fit parent from the child, and they're the ones aiding and abetting in this alienation problem.
Yeah, but how are we gonna get any help? Who's gonna do anything about it? I've tried to contact agencies and stuff about it, but people just ignore it.
Mm,
So I just took to the internet one day. One Saturday, I was at home and the court case was over. I think I was at the appellate situation because I know that I couldn't talk about it as long as I was in family court. So after the family court case was over and I was in the process of filing the appeal, I found a person to do an interview for me through a family member of mine.
mhm.
And we put it on Facebook, and over 12,000 people watched the interview. It was Mr. Dark Eye. And so I just took to the internet and social media to
Mhm.
get the story out. And I'm going to continue to do that.
Yeah, you have to. Thank God for social media.
Yes, because otherwise nobody would know about this.
Now, is that interview on your Facebook page that people can go to and look?
Well, there's another interview at the top of my page, but I'll share it today. It'll be the second interview on my page. It's called Mr. Dark Eye Podcast. And actually I've done two interviews with them. So when we get finished with our session, I'll share it on my page.
Okay. Yeah, at least, you're getting your voice out and warning people. It's like it's like you and I serve as warnings.
Yeah,
I hate to,
it's true. And we're not. You and I are still in our right minds. I hate to say it, but this stuff really takes a mental toll on some people.
oh, it does.
It took a mental toll on me so badly that it affected my thyroid.
Oh, no.
Yeah, but it's back to normal now. But the stress contributed to me having a medical condition. But it's in remission right now, and I'm happy about that.
Yeah, see, this is what people don't understand. I was even seeing a counselor that I had been seeing prior to family court. In order to deal with people that had to go to counseling, I had to go to a counselor to deal with these people. And she told me, she said, with this family court, they want to cause people to have strokes, medical
I
condition.
can believe it.
Yes, and I had a heart attack, so it's what you and I are proof that, yes, this
Yeah,
can evolve from these, vengeful individuals and the collusion, the judges that
yeah.
are sociopaths. I don't know what else to call them.
They have some serious issues, and I feel like the judges that were involved in my case, they didn't feel like they needed to follow the law. I feel like they made up their own laws as they went about the cases.
Mhm.
Because once I started doing research, I was like, were they supposed to do this? Were they supposed to do that? And I really don't think so. All of the decisions that they made, I don't believe that they were supposed to do that, but they did it anyway.
Right.
Because they thought that nobody would ever be able to call them on it. But now in 2024, I'm calling them on it. I'm calling them on the injustice that I was subjected to because of their decisions,
Mhm.
because of their biased decisions.
Right, and again, they'll take no responsibility and they've this immunity, which they shouldn't have because, you know, doctors, nurses, people that deal with people's lives, we have to take drug tests, whatever. These judges should be taking drug
They
tests.
should, the judges and the rest of the officers of the court,
Yes, thank you. Yes.
all of them.
Uh, because even with the one judge I had, I don't think he was playing with a full deck, and I questioned what medication he was on because he, died in our case of pancreatitis. So I wonder what was he on, because he ran it like a three-ring circus, and parents have to pay attention to this too. If you got some nutty judge going from one topic to the next and he can't focus,
He's
then
got your life in his hands, and
right,
whatever decision he makes is gonna be that decision.
right. Would you go to a brain surgeon and have a consult with him and have him go in all directions? Would you let
No.
see, this is why they need to be drug tested, among other tests.
Yes, I agree.
And I also think, I don't know how you feel about this, but they should also be given psychological evals.
Oh my god.
Mm,
I agree with that because they like to try to throw out psychological tests to people that are willing to fight for
mm,
their rights. It's not crazy for people to wanna be heard and to want to fight for their rights. And I think they're the dictators that want to throw out these psychological tests and drug tests sometimes
mhm,
against parents that are trying to fight for their rights and stuff. Why don't they have to why don't they have to take the tests?
right. Oh, definitely. It's just so, this is why it needs to be abolished, because they're not following the law anyway. In fact, I was talking to an attorney who told me that another attorney was screamed at in court by a judge saying, "I don't have to follow the Constitution."
I'm not surprised.
Yeah, you can't make it up.
You can't make it up, and I'm not sure that they do follow the Constitution and family court, but like I said, I from my experience, they don't follow the Constitution.
No. Now, did you find with your judges, parents are telling me that their judges didn't even have a family or kids, and they're making a decision on your family life and your kids.
I believe this one judge had a family and children, but I think he was really for father's rights. That's one reason why I lost the case, but when you go into a courtroom, you should leave your personal stance
Mhm.
outside the door and go by the facts in the case.
Oh, most definitely, but I also think they're getting paid off.
That's a possibility too. It's a possibility. I wouldn't I wouldn't put anything past what's going on, what can happen in South Carolina.
Oh,
Me
definitely.
personally.
Between North and South Carolina, there's a
Mm,
huge problem with this.
yeah. And everybody needs to come together. Where are the rest of the people? You have a podcast. They need to be contacting people, even if they have to use social media. Put the truth out there to
Mhm.
bring it to people's attention because some people don't believe that this can happen,
Right,
but it can.
right,
So
right.
I'm in hopes that they will start speaking out and using their voices to tell what's actually happened
Mhm.
instead of not wanting to fight back. Because if you don't fight back, how can we promote change? Change cannot come about without people's voices and experiences. Do you agree?
I agree, and the thing is, uh, did you find your judge did not look at your evidence?
The lawyers pretty much didn't even present any evidence in the case.
This is what I mean.
My first lawyer that did not show up did not present any evidence in that case. The second one was banned or barred by the court not to present any evidence. The third one took a substantial amount of money and let the 365-day rule apply to the case. They dismissed it. The fourth one stood up silent, and I had to fire him. So when I became a pro se litigant, that's when all the evidence came to the court. I
Mhm.
had to go back and piece everything together from the beginning of the case.
Well, I give you a lot of credit for doing all of that because it's mentally taxing and it took a toll on your health, but you
It
did it.
did. I'm grateful.
Were any of your attorneys female, and did you think the judge just walked all over them?
That second attorney was female. I don't really think it had anything to do with their gender,
Mhm.
because if I'm not mistaken, I think that particular attorney, the judge, and the other attorney, they all knew each other. They ran in the same circles, I believe, if I'm not mistaken.
Mhm.
So that her the gender didn't have anything to do with it in my situation.
Mm,
But I think she knew that judge.
mhm. Yeah, this is what it's, coming down to, and we've gotta warn people that they all know each other,
They do.
find
And
out how. Go ahead.
all they talked about was money in the case I was involved in. Like I said, they'll run the numbers so fast it'll make your head spin off.
Mhm.
Nothing else matters.
No.
The numbers.
Yeah,
That's it.
and your child your child doesn't matter either.
Mm-mm.
Just a financial pawn.
A financial pawn. I agree. I put that in my appeal that my child was used as a pawn
Mhm.
because these people were enriched and I was left destitute. And as a matter of fact, I almost went to jail 2 times in the case.
See, that's another thing that they shouldn't be doing. Was it over attorney fees?
It was over the amount of child support that I was supposed to be paying. I think it was just the one time over the amount of child support that I was supposed to be paying, but I'm not an attorney. When my first and second attorney didn't sit down with me and tell me that you're supposed to be paying X amount of money, how was I supposed to know? When I paid them for services that they never rendered. So I wasn't paying the exact amount and I was ruled back into court. I had to go and exhaust my 401k plan for the third or fourth time and to get the money up so I wouldn't go to jail and lose my job.
See, that is they're still using debtor's prison, which was abolished in 1833, to torment parents who can't afford to pay the,
Right.
imputed amount that the judge dreams up in their head.
And they garnished after that,
Yeah.
they decided to start garnishing my wages, which
Mhm.
I was kind of glad when they did that because I didn't have to deal with another contempt of court order about child support.
Mhm. Oh,
Because
that's
I know the system didn't want me to talk about this case. Even the people that work at the courthouse, they tried to discourage me from filing the appeal.
mm,
I was turned around by the first court clerk, and then, I went back. I spoke with a friend, and a friend was like, "You need to go back because you can file this appeal." And I went back, and I was able to file the appeal, but the court system has gatekeepers at the door
mm,
waiting for you when you try to fight for your rights. But like I said, I was willing to lay down my life. I was willing to literally, I'm not suicidal or anything, but because this happened and
mhm,
I knew it could not, it's just not me that it was happening to, I
mhm,
was willing to lay down my life for
mhm.
the
Yeah.
cause to expose the system.
Mhm.
I was willing to do that.
It's very, uh it's very toxic in there, and there's no justice that's ever gonna be done, and if it is done, I'm shocked.
Me too. I don't know anybody that's totally got justice in a family court system. Have you ever met anybody?
I haven't met anyone that had any, anything good come out of it.
I agree. I haven't either.
You know,
Neither have I.
when you said gatekeeper, it struck me because there's another woman in North Carolina who had a gatekeeper on her, so she couldn't file anything.
See, that's what I'm saying. My appeal would have never been filed had I let that woman, who was only a clerk, who was practicing law that day, tell me that I can't let you allow you to file that piece of paper. And I was like, I need to file this piece of paper. It was the notice of appeal.
Mhm.
I left. I called a friend. The lady said, "Do you want your son to know you?" And I said, "Yes, I want my son to know me." I turned around and went back to the court, and there was another lady sitting at the window, and I had to convince her to allow me to file the paper, and she did.
That's ter
Other than that, if I didn't have that friend, this story would never be told. But she encouraged me to go back, and I did it. And it's like I was begging and pleading
mm,
with the clerk to allow me to exercise my legal rights. I had to beg and plead.
yeah, people have no idea how you have to beg to see your child. Ye
Yeah, I knew that piece of paper, that notice of appeal, it was going to help me because my ex, along with the system, they played a lot of games before they figured out that I knew how to get back in court. They
Mhm.
played a lot of games with me. And after they learned that I knew how to get back in court, they still played games, but the games decreased.
Jeez. Yeah, I mean, I hate to say it, with North and South Carolina, there's a very heavy patriarchal system going on in there.
It is unbelievable.
Well well, I don't wanna keep you all morning. Is there any other advice or anything you'd like to add?
I will add that this has caused me to want to become a domestic violence advocate, in which I have.
Mhm.
I've took a certification, certified in North Carolina, hoping to become nationally certified in the future when some of my other projects that I'm working on slow down. I collaborate with this organization. It's a domestic violence called Catapult Outreach. They are real people. It's a real organization that really helps victims, excuse me, and children of domestic violence. And that's where I'm doing my community work. And I'm happy to be doing, trying to help the community heal from
Mhm.
something like this.
And it's so hard to heal.
Oh gosh, it takes years.
Mhm.
It literally takes years. I think that this situation has set me back 25 years. I don't have a home. I couldn't purchase a home because I had to pour money into fighting the case.
Oh,
So I haven't purchased a home, but
terrible.
hopefully I do have a business with motivational speaking and encouraging people. And hopefully I'm thinking that maybe I'll be able to gain some income from that,
Mhm.
to possibly get a home one day. But I don't have one. I made many sacrifices with this case.
Oh.
Many. What did it do to you financially?
Oh,
What
well,
did
I through I'll sum it up real quick. Through false allegations, um, via CPS, it cost me my nursing career of 23 years. So therefore, there was no income coming in, and my current husband had to take jobs out of town, which he'd done anyway since he was 18, because he's a union steam fitter. So he's used to traveling, but he had to find the more lucrative jobs to make up for the loss of my salary so we could keep our house.
mm,
And then the heart attack happened. It just like was this. the only good thing that happened was I won in Superior Court here in Pennsylvania with the child support because the judge imputed a figure that never existed in her pea brain, even though I lost my nursing job because of these false
Wow.
indications that I was later cleared of. But then you're blackballed, right? You can't work anywhere else
Right.
because they know you have another kid that they could place false allegations onto.
Wow.
So this is how these things happen, and it can happen to anyone. It happened
It
to you.
can.
Yes.
Luckily, I met a partner that I have now. I've been with my boyfriend for almost 9 years, and that's that's part of the reason why I'm not homeless in the street.
Mhm.
So, other than that, I don't think it would have turned out too well,
Right,
but we
same
have
he
a partnership
Mhm.
and we help one another and we care for one another, and that's what's helped me to get through this situation.
Oh, well, I'm glad you found somebody nice. It's so hard to find anybody
Yeah,
nice.
right.
Uh,
Especially when they know that you have been in domestic violence. People just they feed off of it sometimes.
mhm, mhm,
But I would encourage domestic violence survivors to find out who you are. You
mhm,
never know how strong you are. You never know what's inside of you until you have to face challenges like this. I
mhm,
mean, I believe I was this person all the time. I wasn't operating at this capacity, but this is who I am.
mhm,
And it really, I guess a lot of people would say I turned my lemons into lemonade
mhm.
because I'm grateful that it did not destroy me.
Right, right. Oh, yeah, you're very strong, and you're speaking out. And you will help strengthen other people's voices as well.
I sure do hope so.
Now, how can people reach you if they have any questions?
I'm Evelyn Hemphill on Facebook,
Mhm,
and I also have a website. It's called Evelyn Hemphill, the Domestic Violence Advocate at Uniweb, UENI web.com. There's also a telephone number listed there where you can call me, and I'm looking for other platforms to go on to
mm,
get the information out to the masses so they can actually feel as though they have someone that they can talk to that's experienced some of the same things that they have experienced or are experiencing.
mhm. Yes, most definitely, and I can help you get some connections here. But,
Okay,
hey, don't jump off, and, I'd like to have you back on in the future. Don't jump.
sure.
Slam the Gavel is a podcast to help the public understand what really goes on in these family courtrooms. I'm your host, Marianne Petrie, author of Dismantling Family Court Corruption, Why Taking the Kids Was Not Enough, and Cry Out for Justice, Poems of Truth, and Raised by These Wolves, How Family and Federal Courts Are Failing Our Children. You can find me on Spotify, YouTube, Apple iTunes, Anchor FM, iHeartRadio, other platforms I don't know about. And feel free to buy me a coffee to help keep this podcast going. And that includes all you lawyers listening in on this. So y'all all have a nice day and don't jump off Evelyn. Thank you so
Thank you.